city of Portland and his commitment to the Blazers organization. I want him with the Knicks. I mean, that would be a dream come true for me to have a clutch dude like that.
Of
Course.
Shut up with the Knicks talk.
Well, listen to me. I'm trying to educate you, brother. I told you I spoke to him. I'm just trying to give you information.
You're saying it's one of these read between the lines situations.
I'm trying to, no. I spoke to him, not yesterday, but I've spoken to him on many occasions. And I'm confessing to you, I mean, just like I brought up the Knicks to you, I brought up the Knicks to him. And he'd say, get the hell away from me with that. You know what I'm saying? That's what I'm trying to tell you. That's what I was getting to.
Yeah,
so he feels like Max does. He said that on many, many occasions. But he is made of a different ilk, y'all. He's frustrated right now knowing him the way that I do. He has a right to be. He's not the kind of person that wants to go to L.A. and play with LeBron. He's not made of that ilk. He's not built that way. He's got 4 years and $196 million remaining on his contract. You got to trade the farm to get equitable compensation in return for him. So it seems to be a daunting task. Here's what I would tell you. In his perfect world, it's about somebody coming to Portland to join him, not about him going elsewhere to join them. And that's going to be a pretty hard sell for the Portland Trailblazers. And it's time somebody brought this up. I understand management. I look at Nurkic. I have no use for him. I know Jokic is no joke. But to abuse Nurkic like that and Nurkic to have no response is just pathetic, where Enes Kanter has to come in there and try something, okay? You look at C.J. McCollum. He ain't Damian Lillard, but he's pretty damn good at making good money. I've always stated to both of them, to their face, the combination of the two can't win because they're smaller guards and they can score on anybody, but defense is going to be a problem. You got to overcompensate. You look at Terry Stotts. When do we sit up there and say he's not the guy? Now, I'm not saying that he doesn't deserve to be a head coach in the NBA. What I'm saying is he's the kind of guy that knows his X's and O's. He knows what he's doing. But in terms of being a leader that can galvanize the troops and maximize the potential around you, I don't think Terry Stotts has ever shown that. And at some point in time, you've been there forever. I mean, my God, when do you make some kind of switch? Not just with personnel, but with coaching. Because clearly whatever you have ain't going to get it done. And they never do it. Yeah. And that's why Damian Lillard has expressed frustration. He's tired of going down like this, wasting a 55-point performance in Game 5 like they did. Ridiculous.
Yeah, I don't see it as Neil O'Shea. What you're just pointing out, I see it as Neil O'Shea, not Stotts in that case, Stephen A. Look, we know that Portland doesn't have quite enough. It's not a market that's going to attract high-priced free agents or where guys are going to demand to get traded to. So if you do find it, Damian Lillard needs another superstar with him. He doesn't have that. But to give up the farm to get a superstar, they're going to let Portland know, I'm not staying in Portland, most likely. So what do? It's not enough. They may have to trade McCollum, although Anthony Simons, he's only 21, can jump out the gym, can shoot. They have some interesting pieces that maybe they could cobble something together and bring in a third guy along with Lillard and McCollum to kind of put them over the top or get them to the next level. The Knicks, Stephen A., I don't know what. If I'm the Trailblazers, the Knicks could offer me every asset they have, every player on the roster, and all their draft picks. Why would I trade that for Damian Lillard? Forget that. No, is it the end of Dame time in Portland? I don't think it is. I don't think it is. I think they're going to have to make a move to make the roster better along the lines of what I just said. Figure out whether it's McCollum or maybe even, because you're right, they're small guards, or maybe even package other interesting pieces, draft picks they have together to bring in a third guy who's not Carmelo Anthony. Oh, look at that. He has more left than we thought. But a guy who's still an all-star caliber player. But Stephen A., even then, is that a championship roster? Damian, is it a championship roster?
Listen. Let's be clear. I answered the question to tell you what Damian Lillard told me as to what his thinking has been consistently throughout the years. His position has never changed. Last night was the first inkling of any kind of change in his persona. I know a whole bunch of people, I should say a whole bunch of people because he doesn't have a whole bunch of people in his inner circle because he don't roll like that. But the people in his inner circle I know well as well. And all of them feel he should leave. I feel he should leave. A guy like that does not belong in a small market. A guy like that needs to be on center stage with the eyes of the basketball world descending upon him because he's that kind of talent. He's that big time. But if you're going to sit up there and say, well, he ain't going anywhere, we going to keep him here, then don't you need to exhaust every means and measure to make sure he has what he needs?
Yeah.
Don't you need to alter your roster if you're Neil O'Shea? If you start Max, he's been there 9 years. They've gotten out of the first round 3 times. Again, I'm not saying the man can't coach. I'm not saying he doesn't know what he's doing. I'm not saying he doesn't belong to be a head coach. Nate McMillan did a good job in Indiana, but he didn't get out of the first round. He lost his job. He ended up going to Atlanta and showing that he needed to be in a better market than Indiana or a better situation. Terry Stotts is not the guy that is going to get this particular Portland Trailblazers roster to any kind of promised land.
Let's be honest.
He's not
Real
that
quick,
guy.
Max,
Yeah.
I just want to show everybody that IG post because we talked about it a little bit before. We didn't have it, and I'm told that we have it now. There you can see the Nipsey Hussle quote, the pic, the whole thing. Obviously, no accident that he's putting that out there after that loss.
Well, speaking of Nipsey Hussle, he's feeling himself because he's got the keys to the city. I mean, that's a. But
Max,
look,
Max,
yeah.
before you go, I just got a text from somebody. They will remain nameless, but they got, let's just say they have incredible credibility when it comes to basketball. And they mentioned to me Karl Anthony Towns. Maybe in Portland, and you make a move involving Nurkic, McCollum, or whomever, bringing Karl Anthony Towns to join, and another person that they, I'm not saying Golden State should ever give him up, and he shouldn't consider leaving, but if Portland had a shot to get a Draymond Green and a Karl Anthony Towns,
now you're talking
with Damian Lillard, kid, because that's who Damian Lillard wanted. Mark Jackson, yet again. I'm going to bring up that name yet again. Our colleague and analyst here at ESPN. How the hell this man don't get interviews? It's just beyond me. It's just beyond me. Mark Jackson should be interviewed by Portland. Mark Jackson should be interviewed by Boston. Mark Jackson should be interviewed for, damn it, any head coaching job out there in the NBA, considering what he brought to the table. Max, I'll leave a couple of names to you.
I just want one name.
They were on my list. I'll leave that. Chauncey Billups is a name I'm going to throw out there as well. But let me get to this Jason Kidd thing, because I will remind everybody, I know I'm doing First Take, and I got Stephen A's World, and I'm a very, very busy man in studio. But I have been covering the NBA for a quarter century. I do know a lot of people, and I know everybody involved in all of this stuff with Jason Kidd. Everybody. Now, let me say this. Jason Kidd's name comes up. Damian Lillard throws out his name.
Gave him an out.
They're Oakland natives, both of them. They've known each other for years, okay? That's why Damian Lillard did that, because he respects the brother and he knows him, all right? And then all of a sudden, all this noise comes out about Jason Kidd's past. Molly, domestic violence, 2000, 2001, I believe it was, DWI, 2012. I would remind everybody that since that time, no other incident has happened. Jason Kidd has had not one but 2 head coaching jobs in Brooklyn and Milwaukee. But somehow the Knicks job comes up, people start talking about his past. Okay? The Lakers job, because they wanted him before Frank Vogel, people start talking about his past. Now Portland comes up and people start talking about his past. And I find that a tad bit odd. How all of these stories just suddenly percolate right when the time when it seems ideal that the brother's about to get a head coaching job. At some point in time, it's like this. Excuse me. What about merit? The merit of what you do? Because Jason Kidd has been happily married for over 10 years. Ain't had no incidents to speak of or whatever. Okay? And if you're good enough to be an assistant coach on a team, okay, then your merit should decide whether or not you're the head coach, as opposed to somebody bringing up stuff from 20 years ago, all right? So I find that a tad bit odd. He was not uncomfortable. You have to figure out how I know this. He was not uncomfortable with Damian Lillard recommending him. He was honored that Damian Lillard would recommend him for that job. Now, Neil O'Shea is running the show in Portland, okay? And he finally decides to get rid of Terry Stotts and And all of a sudden, you hear these candidates, and conveniently these stories come leaking out. Max, now you know me. I'm a very, very busy man, like I said, until you require my attention and ask me to, and essentially force me to look into stuff. I have better things to do, but now this got my attention because I want to know why. I want to know why, and all of a sudden, you understand, a name like Jason Kidd comes out, and we start hearing about all of these things that we all knew, but nobody talked about. And every single time he comes up for a head coaching job, that's the only time somebody says, wait a minute now. Now this man's employed. Ain't like he ain't been unemployed. He's employed in the NBA.
Yeah. Like it's okay for him to be an assistant, but it's not okay for him to be a head coach.
Real quick, the way I read him saying he was uncomfortable was, it just sounds to me like maybe the Lakers job might be available before too long, and maybe he would be considered for that.
It could be, but I doubt it. But that's not it. He was not uncomfortable.
I got you.
He was not uncomfortable.
Let me say this. I'd love to see Sam Cassell. You always talk about the paucity of African-American head coaches. Well, if you go to retreads, guys who've already had jobs, you're not entering any fresh blood in there. Why not a guy who's paid his dues in the assistant ranks, Sam Cassell, a champion as a player, as a top assistant coach, get his name in there. And I really like that idea of Sam Cassell.
Yep.
And
so do I.
Yeah.
So do I.
Yeah.
And by the way, Jason Kidd, just so you know, Jason Kidd with Sam Cassell, where their strength comes in, particularly with Jason Kidd, why the Lakers were so interested in him, it was Jason Kidd that developed Giannis. He's big on player development. Him and his team. When you play with Jason Kidd, or you play for Jason Kidd, you get better as a talent. Yusuf Nurkic. Just a thought. Just a thought.
You give Dame whatever coach you want. More skills. In 99-2000, Shaq was the MVP, 30 points, 14 boards, and 3 blocks a game. He was the Finals MVP 3 years in a row. 3-time Finals MVP. By the way, he and Kobe played on the same team. He was a 3-time Finals MVP. But let me cut through all the nonsense. In those years, let's just take 99-2000. If we said, okay, list the best players in the NBA, the only position that Shaq would be in is 1. So everything else is semantics. You'd have Shaq 1, and then either Kobe or Duncan 2, and then the other 3, and then KG or whoever 4. But Shaq would be 1, and that was not the only season he'd be 1 on the list. In fact, the guy who had the most kind of undisputed claim to being the number 1 guy in the NBA, the best player in the NBA, between Jordan and LeBron's prime, I mean, Kobe was that, Duncan, you could argue, was that, but the guy who had the number 1 most undisputed claim was Shaq. That was the dude. How are we going to sit here and pretend that didn't happen? Of course Shaq was the best player in the game.
Well, first of all, my apologies, because I thought that we were talking about in terms of their playing time and whatever. 1999-2000, Shaq averaged 29-7, and he was clearly in his prime, most dominant, no question about it. He was unbelievable. From that point forward, it was Kobe, period. And when I look at Tim Duncan, and how spectacular he was. After Shaq won the MVP and they won their championship that year, the very next year, Kobe averaged 28.5. I would remind you that Shaq was shooting 52% from the free throw line. I would remind you that Shaq was getting bigger and bigger, and Shaq played when he wanted to play. Now, be very clear about this. Shaq was clearly the most dominant. I think Shaq is the most dominant force we've ever seen other than Wilt Chamberlain.
In our lifetime.
In our lifetime, okay? That's the most dominant force. And I'm not throwing any shade whatsoever. But not only did Shaq defer to Kobe in key moments, Shaq deferred to Kobe in the fourth quarter. Of course. Shaq deferred to Kobe at the free throw line. And Shaq, even though he could defend, especially if you challenged him, he'd shut you up real quick. That's not something he really had to do. So when I'm looking at Shaq overall, and I'm thinking from a skill set, the man was 7'1", 330 pounds he walked around with, all right? He was mobile, he was agile, his footwork was big time. He could do damage when he wanted to. He'd be in the open court finishing off fast breaks. We get all of that. But at the end of the day, when you have a teammate, the likes of Kobe Bean Bryant, okay? I'm sorry, I don't feel that way. But again, the mistake is mine, not yours, because I wasn't really talking about 1999, 2000. I thought, I thought you was looking at it basically
during their time together, but I'll dispute that too.
All right, you can dispute that, but I'm telling you, Shaq is unstoppable, the most dominant force other than Wilt Chamberlain we have ever seen in the history of basketball. But in terms of the best, from a skilled perspective, I mean, I look at Tim Duncan, I look at Kobe Bryant, his teammate.
He's not more skilled than those guys. I'm just saying, rank them. 1, 2, 3. Shaq, not just in 99, 2000. I mean, Kobe was incredible. And of course, he was the closer. He's the guy who could handle the ball, create his own shot, clutch player, the whole thing. But Shaq, the following year, after those numbers I gave you 29, 13, and 3 blocks. Again, basically the same numbers. And by the way, he was the finals MVP, not just in 99, 2000, but in 2000, 2001,
no answer to him.
Right.
2000, 2002. He and Kobe played on the same team. He was the finals
let
MVP.
Perk get in here, guys. Perk, get in on this. Where are you? There you are.
I'm right here, Molly. Molly, I just want to know what's going on today. I've been watching First Take all morning, and I just want to say this right now to Stephen A. and Max. Stay off the weed. I don't know if it's the OG being passed around, the purple. I don't know the strands that's going around over there at Seaport Studio right now. But some of the things I've been hearing this morning has been blasphemous. Okay? But look, Stephen A., I got to agree with Max on this point. Because for those 3 years, not only was Shaq dominant, he was the face of the NBA. I can't think of no other guy that was having an imprint on the NBA like Shaquille O'Neal. I mean, he was averaging during that time 27 points a game, 11 rebounds, 57% shooting. No, I wasn't there yet. I got in at 2003. But what I'm saying is, Stephen A., when you look at Shaq, and this is what people undervalue him at, when you talk about a skill set, Shaq footwork, Shaq ability to maneuver at that size, that's a skill set. Like, yeah, he wasn't going between his legs 1,000 times and doing all that, but you talk about the footwork that he had, was able to face up, spin off you, snatch the screws out the rim, the little soft touch turnaround that he had with one hand towards the baseline, soft touch jump hook. His passing ability is underrated. The way he was able to push the ball up the floor is no other player. Like, Tim Duncan was good. He was great. Kobe Bryant was great. But Shaq was on another level in those 3 years. And like, yeah, but I know that, right? But they felt under Shaq. And when Shaq came into arenas, he opposed his will. It was polarizing when he stepped in foot on the court. The opponents were terrified of him. So I got to say, not only he was the most dominant, but he was the face of the NBA in those 3 years.
Those three.
I never questioned whether or not he was the face of the NBA.
He was the best player.
He was the face of the NBA.
No, best player.
He was clearly the most dominant. I get that. Shaq and I have talked about this. We've had some disagreements, but not many, because he understands what Kobe Bryant brought to the table, and he understood that at 330, you got 4 championships on your resume. 3 came with the Los Angeles Lakers. Right now, they're the prohibitive favorites. Do you think, A, they deserve to be the favorites in light of what we've seen assembled in Brooklyn? And B, do you see anybody out west challenging the Lakers this season?
I think they do deserve to be the favorites because they're the champs. You have to knock off the champs. Anybody in the West, Denver, look, it's a lot of competitive teams out. Let me finish. It's a lot of competitive teams out there, but I don't think it's a team that can beat them in a 7-game series. A lot of
what
teams
about the Clippers? What about Kawhi?
Bro, we said that last year. So, until the Clippers beat them, it's just still the same old talk. And I get tired of watching you talk the same old talk. That's why that's like when you talk, I put it on mute. I love hearing Molly and Max talk because they speak real facts. Unlike you just be, I put it on mute, and then when the intelligent, smooth brother of Max Kellerman.
Okay. You know what's coming because I'm watching you on TNT. You know what's coming. I'm going to get you for that. I'm going to get you for that. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to get you. Watch. You know I am.
Well, as usual, Shaq has a lot of very smart things to say.
Please, he's being too kind.
Shaq,
lying.
When I look out west, there are 2 teams that are interesting to me this year that maybe aren't getting as much press as some of the others, Dallas and Phoenix. What are your thoughts about their chances this year, Dallas and Phoenix?
Very young. They should go pretty far in the playoffs, but I don't think they have enough to beat the Lakers. The team that scares me if they're on full throttle, no mistakes, everybody's healthy. I'm always scared of Portland because I think CJ and Dame, I think they're the best backcourt in basketball right now. Those two, especially when they go going and they're shooting at a high rate. Clippers also scare me, but look, I need everybody to play at a high level. I want to see that. I want to see that Indiana Pacers Paul George, the aggressive Paul George, going through the hole, dunking, stepping out, shooting threes. I don't like seeing Paul when he goes up and down. I want to see the Indiana Pacers Paul, and Paul's been playing great, so I'm not going to jump on my guy Paul. But if Paul could play at a high level with Kawhi playing at a high level, then yes, they can challenge the Lakers.
Shaq, talk to me about Novex Biotech. What's the deal?
Well, I wanted to be sexy like your husband. So, I was feeling lethargic.
Your
I tried
inspiration?
everything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, listen, your husband is beautiful. He's sexy. I know he has a six-pack. I said, you know what? I'm looking like Charles Barkley now. My belly is hanging over my belt line. So when I tried Novex GF9, I got more active. I was sleeping through the night, and I have energy. And yes, Stephen A. Smith, I have a six-pack. I'll send you a text right now. I'll send you a text right now, Stephen A. Smith.
I'll deal with you later.
Say I
I'm
won't.
not going to even say what I want to say. I'm not going to say what I want to say. You know damn well you don't have no six-pack.
See? Okay. Here's my phone.
Oh, Lord.
You haven't tried Novex. You haven't tried Novex Biotech, Stephen A.
He don't listen. Unless he lost about 30 pounds in 2 days.
I did.
When Shaq started taking Novex Biotech, he was 6'1".
Oh my God.
I got it.
Stephen A. Smith.
I got it.
Check your phone.
He did send it too. He said it too.
Yeah, check your phone.
You're ridiculous.
I don't even want to see it.
It's just ridiculous.
All right,
go
president
ahead.
of the
Go
Big
ahead,
Man
show 'em.
Alliance. Oh my
What he send you?
goodness.
Let's see it.
No, I ain't showing it.
Show him. Yeah,
Why you gonna
show it.
What?
Go ahead, show it. Yeah.
Y'all can't see this. Y'all can't see this.
Oh, is that a bathroom selfie?
He's sitting there with a
Yes,
six. He's trying to say it's a six-pack.
Yes,
He's trying to
it
say it's a
is.
six-pack. He just sent it to me.
That's not him. Get out of here.
What you mean? That's Bali. That's me. I'm telling you
He
right
took
now.
this a year ago. He took this a year or two ago.
When did you take that? When you were in the finals?
He saved it in his library and stuff.
my
He just
God.
sent it to me. I ain't buying that.
I'm telling you,
I know what I
Bali,
saw.
look.
Shaq, I
I'm
want to see the
telling you right
date on
now.
that photo. That was in the archive.
Okay.
Oh my goodness.
No.
All right, Shaq, I'm told you got to go. Always a good time. I knew you'd bring me a smile and a laugh. Stay safe. We'll talk to you soon.
Lose some damn weight.
Oh my
Oh,
God.
Shaq, he could do what he wants.
Do you think LeBron's being sincere there, saying that Steph's MVP, and then keep in mind they're playing each other Wednesday?
Well, I'm not going to question his sincerity with it. I'm just going to say I think there's some gamesmanship there. And to me, I'm one of those people. Listen, it's no big deal. I ain't losing sleep over it. But I prefer, let me just put it to you this way, because I'm going to be nice this one. I'm going to be nice. I mean, I'll save my vitriol for Max Kellerman. I'm not going to aim it in the direction of LeBron James here. But I want a little animosity. I want LeBron knowing that Steph is coming to slay the king. You see what I'm saying? And what's up? We ready. I want that. One of the things that guys from the past, and again, I'm relatively old school, and guys from the past, I really, really appreciated it. You don't have to go to the extreme of Pat Riley where he didn't want guys being friends at all off the court and stuff like that. But I also don't want you on the court singing Kumbaya to one another, hugging one another. I don't need all that. I mean, we about to go at it. You see what I'm saying? And the intrigue that comes with just a touch of animus before you encounter one another is appealing to the viewer. And that is something that LeBron James almost has never, ever given us. He's such a likable guy. And you see stars around him, and he loves on them, they love on him. He's a lot of fun, they joke around and stuff like that. I remember years ago when him and D-Wade were going up against each other after they left, or after he had left Miami and stuff like that. They hugged each other so damn much on the court, everybody was like, what the hell's going on?
They're boys.
Yeah, I'm just saying, but what I'm saying is that I know they're going to go at each other.
Yeah.
But from a fan's perspective, you want to sense a little bit of animus just on a basketball court.
Okay.
You want to sense like, I'm going to bust your liver, you know what, here I come. You want to see it, you want to know it's coming, you want to feel it. And I'm not saying you don't necessarily feel that here. I'm just saying that it doesn't escape me that he doesn't speak ill of the competition. And it's had a contagious effect because we don't see too many dudes doing that in today's NBA game. And some of us miss it.
I'm with you, Max.
Well, I mean, is this like you're saying you missed the gamesmanship? Yeah, I kind of do too. But I think he's not only being sincere, I don't think LeBron needs to butter anyone up. Like, hey, Steph, I'm saying nice things about you. Take it easy on me, will you? No, I think this is like the Bob Gibson quote, one of the greatest pitchers of all time. He said, the best catch ever is like watching the girls go by. The prettiest one is the last one you saw. That's the best catch ever. Same thing here with LeBron and Steph and MVP, I think. He's seeing a league where, look, James Harden was balling, got hurt. Embiid was balling. LeBron was balling. KD was balling. They all got hurt. Jokic been balling wire to wire. But the Dame, for a lot of the season, it looked like he got tired, right? Or a little hurt. Steph Curry not only had a really good season the whole time, but put the pedal to the metal recently. Last month or so, he's been out of his mind. So the lasting impression that LeBron has about Steph is that. And if you ask him about it, he's going to tell you that's the MVP. I don't think he's sitting down and like really thinking about from beginning to end. Maybe he is because Steph has played himself, I think, into the number 2 spot behind Jokic. But I can't blame a dude, especially who's about to compete against that guy. Like, what do you have to brace for? And LeBron's thinking, I got to brace for the dude who had the best season in the league this year. Whether I agree with him or not, I get recency bias and how he could really think that because Steph has been impossibly great, especially over the last, 30 games or so?
Yep.
It's been ridiculous. I think he's just telling you the truth.
Let me throw something at you, and maybe it's a little bit of the cynic in me, Stephen A. But first we had LeBron come out with the comments, and he said, I'm not 100%. I never know if I'll be 100% again. And now he's saying Steph's the MVP. I think he's just setting up the narrative like, hey, when we beat Steph and the Warriors and we take them out real quick, I beat the MVP. Or when I win this chip, I wasn't 100%. And he's just setting us up here, and that's kind of the direction of where he's going with it.
I wouldn't accuse him of that. He clarified his position about never being 100% last night when he spoke, or Saturday rather, when he spoke to the media. He was like, he said maybe he should have clarified it and people ran with it. Well, damn it, it was because there's a lot of people that don't know the game, didn't know what he meant, and he knew that, and that's who he was speaking to when he said it. So he's the one that left it out there. But what he was saying is that, you know what, you never feel fresh. Once you start playing in this game, you're never 100% a game. You might be 99%, but you're never 100. There's always some little tweak or whatever that you could afford to you could afford to have at your disposal. That's all he meant by that. And I don't think it's one of those situations where he's saying, okay, if I'm not 100% and I still slayed the giant that is Steph Curry. Believe it or not, even though Steph Curry is lethal, LeBron has bigger fish to fry. The fact is, you're the reigning defending NBA champion. Utah, Phoenix, the Clippers, Denver, they all are there waiting for you with home court advantage. And if you get through them, the Brooklyn Nets with Kyrie, and I say Kyrie instead of KD because even though we know KD would love to be universally recognized as the best in the world and what have you, as opposed to LeBron, KD wasn't LeBron's former teammate. KD wasn't the one that wanted out from playing under LeBron's shadow. That would be Kyrie Irving. And so Kyrie Irving going to the finals against LeBron James, that would be headline material all day, every day when it comes to those two going at it and putting on a show on the court if the finals came to that. LeBron actually has bigger fish to fry than Steph. It's just that Steph is so lethal, Steph could interrupt everything by knocking the Lakers off Wednesday night, even though that wouldn't eliminate the Lakers from the possibility of making the postseason.
Max?
I mean, when Stephen A. talks about gamesmanship, Stephen A., you actually told me my favorite sports story of all time, and it was about Michael Jordan. And I'll just give you the cliff notes, everybody, that Jordan used to antagonize opponents before playoff games. And when Stephen A., you told me this story, I was like, yeah, of course, because he wants to throw them off their game. Muhammad Ali used to do the same thing, right? Get him angry, get him off kilter, and you take advantage. Stephen A., you told me, no, Jordan did it